Okay, video 2 for the day. So feeling kind of antsy about, I don't know, just random urgency, kind of under the radar, but it's there. So I don't really know what to do about it except for try to produce more videos. I mean, it's the only thing I got in my hand to do, I guess. But I was listening to testimonies of people who have been to hell and back, and um, oh, well, let me go back to what I was saying before in my previous video. Well, no, this is technically a new topic, so let me just start the topic. Okay, so, um, like, I feel sympathy for unbelievers in another sense when we talk about hell and stuff, because, or even just anybody, but particularly people who don't even have a concept of God. I mean, some of this stuff is hard to grasp, but the reason why, what makes it even harder to grasp is the modern world. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's a purposeful design, but it's very much designed to, um, it's kind of taking like the worst parts of us that, we like things to be comfortable. And I don't know, maybe this is just a reflection of America because that's where I live, but we like things to function well, and we like to be comfortable, and we like things to be, I don't know. It just seems like over time, this society that we tried to create, maybe because of our abandonment of God and the things of God, like it's sort of now becoming this like prison situation where we're sort of enslaved and blinded by our own culture. But now we've made it so that we're insulated to God Himself. Like, insulation in and of itself is great, but when you do it the wrong way, that's why I say it's probably purposeful, because the devil knows how to navigate. Sorry again, it is late. The devil knows how to sort of bring up the issues that he needs to bring up to get us to move in a certain direction. And it's almost like we have, he's convinced us to sort of cut our own pillars, certain key pillars, and the whole thing's just going to crumble soon. But, he's just like somehow convinced us to cut the very branch that we're standing on, like, which he can't just outright tell us to do, because that we would be like, that's silly. But if he can sort of get us in a roundabout way to like, isn't this bad? Yeah. Well, isn't this that? Oh yeah, we got to get rid of that. What about this? And then you end up doing this thing that you think is random, these issues that you think are random and don't have anything to do with God or the Bible or anything. And of course, everything has to do with the God or the Bible or anything. So, but he's even taken that away and made it seem like this is its own separate place that has nothing to do with God. Um, when you talk about hell, it's just kind of like, I mean, it's just, you just laugh it off because it's so not. So I just feel bad because even as a Christian, it's a very strange concept to get your mind around sometimes. And it made me think of this thing that I figured out a long time ago, but a while back, I won't say a long time ago. But there's a passage in scripture which I don't know if you know, but it's brought up many times that hell that Jesus talks about hell more than he talks about heaven, and I think it's like I don't know, it's in the hundreds apparently how many times he mentions hell, which kind of blows my mind. But um, sorry, there goes another yawn. Sorry, I'm boring myself. Um, but he talks about hell a lot, and there's a pretty famous, infamous passage of scripture where he says, you know, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. Better for you to enter heaven maimed than to enter hell with both of your eyes. And then he goes on to say the same thing about, you know, a hand. If the right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Oh my gosh, it's just all types of involuntary things going on. Um, so, you know, growing up hearing that scripture, of course, you know, you're the part of you that is going to take it in as a good Christian and just, you know, try your best to understand what he means by that. The other part of you is going, man, that's kind of harsh, bro. Like, you're just like, dude, is it really that deep? Or even, you know, there's a passage that's like, you know, don't you know that? I think it's Paul, it's not Jesus speaking, but he's like, you know, um, when you lay with a prostitute, you know, you become one with her in spirit or whatever. And, you know, part of you is just like, really? Well, I mean, it's really just like sex with a random person. Like, is that like, how is that becoming one with them? And so there's all of these, I wouldn't say mysteries, but there's all of these spiritual components that you just don't internalize because largely because your own culture is not reflecting that. And I don't know if, I mean, the fact that Paul had to say that in the letter and say, don't you know this is what's happening, indicates that most people did not have that insight and understanding. Um, but even, you know, you're tempted even when you hear it to just kind of go, well, he's just, you know, for dramatic effect, you know, just to get people to understand, you know, that they should not do fornication. But it's like, no, I'm pretty sure that's what's really going on. And there is this horrible, bad disconnect between what is actually going on in the invisible realms and how much it counts and how much it matters versus how much we think it matters. And, you know, part of society's job is to reflect the things that matter and like genuinely matter so that you can understand and see them in your own life and see like, oh, it matters to have integrity, it matters to be honest, it matters, and sort of reflect those things in the culture so that you can sort of have this mini microcosm of how the spirit realm is going to be once you leave this earth, because that's going to be your permanent situation. This earth and what you do here is the information gathering stage, and then man is appointed once to die, as the Bible also says. Which I don't know. I've been saying that a lot lately because it's kind of trips me out. Like suddenly, I'm just like, what? Man is appointed once to die. Like, do you know how crazy that sounds? Like, it's implying that dying is just this thing you do in the middle of this infinite timeline of living. So it's like you live here, you die, and then you live in a different context from that point on. It's like man is appointed and wants to die. Like it's like jury duty and stuff. It's like we all got to do it, and then it's over. And it has absolutely nothing to do with. It's just this one little thing that we have to do that takes like I don't know a couple of minutes. Like it's just really crazy when I think about it. But anyways, so um, yeah. So I was watching. There's this show called I Survived. And there's a couple of kind of knockoff shows, but I Survived is like the OG. And it's basically stories of people surviving these heinous things that happen to them. And I remember there's this one episode, um, and it was this guy who's a farmer, and he like had like one of those combine things, a tractor or something, and I think he was like it was wheat farming, and he was there by himself doing the job, and somehow or other the machine was malfunctioning. He got down to try and figure it out, and his arm got caught in the mechanism, and so he's trying to free his arm because it's like one of those things that turn like he's going to get chopped to bits. And I remember him recalling the story, and he realized, I don't know if this was all like happening in a split second or what, but he realized at some point, like, if I cut off my arm, I can make it out. Like he just, it's like everything got down to the wire. It got down to, I'm going to die. And, you got this like super mega brain, everything sort of lined up in a row, like what he's supposed to do or what mattered, what was the important thing to do. And you realize like, oh, I can cut my arm off. And so I don't even remember what he was going to use to do that. I don't know if he had a knife on him or something. I don't remember what it was, but he realized if he could just get his arm cut, he could be free. And I just remember him telling that, and just like with such like joy and this eureka moment of just like, oh, I can cut up my arm. Like it suddenly became the best information that had ever happened. That was the good news, was that he could get his arm free if he just cut it off. And as I'm watching that, I realized what that scripture is telling you. I was like, oh, that's why we don't understand that scripture, or why we kind of gloss over it, or it just seems weird to us. It's because we don't know how bad hell is. We don't know how bad the punishment is. We don't know what the stakes are. We don't understand what the stakes are. We're talking about death, dying the death. And so Jesus is telling us, sort of matter of factly, which he's known to do many times. It's sort of like, it's kind of like, okay, it's so matter of fact, but then it's like, well, I told you 100 times. So you just kind of feel like both responsible for the information the more that you've heard it, and both like confused at how matter of factly he's telling you. But like, yeah, so we don't understand what it is. And unfortunately, absolutely nothing in our lives is driving the point home. And now it's to the point where, I mean, if you even dare to mention hell, it's like no one wants to hear about it anymore. And part of the reason is because it's so not pervasive. Like, I think that even if we just lived like people lived 150 years ago, where you were, or even 100 years ago, where you were aware of, you had like a lamp, one lamp, you could see in the dark, but for the most part, when it got dark, activity was done. There was nothing more to do. You had to just settle down. There's no light. So it's time to stop doing anything. And you might have a nice little lamp. You had your community people. It's just like everything that was the closest to nature and the adherence to the natural world would help us. Like, I know that seems like, how is that related? I'm telling you, just trust me on it. It would get us thinking about how hell correlates in any way with the life that we're living. How the Bible, how God, you would just be thinking on a constant basis about it. And, if you've ever been If you ever had a winter come through or a famine come through and you starved plumb to death, you know what suffering is, you know it exists. You come to God humbly because you're like, I don't even know if hell's a real thing, but I would like to be saved from it if it's at all possible. You know that life and death are a constant thing. Uh, it's not predictable. You can't just wish it away. You can't just be a good person and avoid it. There's all of these realities, these hard things, these um, naturally weighty, humbling things about living life naturally as a human that we're so disconnected from, to the point where, I mean, it just would take a miracle for anyone to be able to hear a hell message. And unfortunately, ironically, it's like it just seems like they're getting more, the hell testimonies and the hell experiences are getting more graphic, more blatant, more um, they're happening more often. And someone said something to me, or not to me, but I heard something recently that, like, I didn't even think about this, but like the fact that modern medicine is allowing more people to be revived could totally explain why there's so many of these health testimonies out here than there ever have been. It's like, yeah, if you died in 1957, that was it. It didn't bring you back after you had coded for 17 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's because things are advancing that we're able to see into these things that we wouldn't. But it's like now things have advanced to the point where we're so lifted in pride and we feel like, oh yeah, all this stuff is a thing of the past. Now it's like people do things 24 hours a day. They don't care about nighttime. What's nighttime? It's like we've done that for decades now, where we wouldn't even know how to go back to how that to dictating your life around daytime and all this stuff. It's like we're so past all that. We're so past, you don't have a limb, or now we're going to grow you one, all of this stuff. And then in our in these technological pursuits, we stumble across some information about God that we weren't able to have before, and we don't know what to do with it because we put that on the shelf and we are like, oh, we're done with that. That's all, that's all. I don't know, what do you call it? Pre whatever, pre enlightenment, whatever. It's like, oh, we've debunked that. It's debunked, and then we accidentally like bump into him because of the next frontier that we're on. It's like, and then what do you do? Then you have to suppress. Um, so that's kind of rambly, but the point is, like, no one would blame you if you're skeptical about the hell testimony, but or the hell reality. But the solution is not to put your head under the sand, which I don't know, people don't really do that anymore. Now it's just, I'm going to blatantly just laugh and mock in your face, and that's going to make it go away. And if there's 50 of us doing it, then it really doesn't exist. Like, hell is so stark and so, it's just such an intense thing that it's hard to wrap your mind around. Like, I don't even really particularly want to wrap my mind around it. But it's like you have to face it. You have to. Because if it's really out there and you go because you thought you could laugh the threat away, you thought you could deny the threat away, or you could cuss out a Christian it away, like, dude. Um, I mean, I know that it's real, but it's just, again, I'm just thinking of all the people, and I don't think people go because they didn't know. It's like you need to make the right decision. You need to make the right decision. You, if we all understand because we're all human. We all understand what that information hitting your ears is like. Um, but it's really worth it to like sit down and really take stock and really start to evaluate what's important, because if that thing is coming towards you, like the guy on the tractor, and you find a way out, and all it is a matter of chopping off your arm. All it is a matter of I'm about to do my my Sunday morning pastor thing and just start coming up with analogies. All it is a matter of getting rid of that friend, uh, flushing them drugs down the toilet. See, I'm not good at it because I grew up in it, but I don't have any experience actually doing it. Getting rid of that man. The thing that is keeping you away from God. It's like there's something that's keeping you away from God. You know what it is, but on the other side is hell that you don't even want to really think about. So you're just kind of in the middle of this sandwich in the middle of this, like, I'm just gonna be in la la land, la 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 la, everything's fine. Like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Like, I'm here. I feel like the purpose of the channel, if there is one, if I'm involved at all, is to sort of make God not so much of a big deal, not so much of a strange thing, not so much of a huge leap, so that you can make the proper decision. Um, so it's not that big of a deal, and yet it is. And then you just got to do it. You just got to understand, like, hell is real. Go watch hell testimonies. There's like a ton of them on YouTube. Um, and there's people who've had hell testimonies and just said that was a complete and total hallucination and just went on about their lives, just not willing to grasp what happened to them, which is also very scary. Um, I don't know. There's just something about the one that I just watched that just was really like, he's just explaining, like, every pain that you've ever had in your life, whether it's like a headache or you scraped your knee or whatever. It's like, that's all coming back to you. It's like, because you have rejected God, and all the stuff that you thought was just evolution creating the perfect um, circumstances for you to live on the planet. And it was literally just God constantly, like, spending every waking moment crafting your life, and you rejected that. And it's like, okay, well, here's back all the crap that I was saving you from, that all of the, when your body miraculously healed from that thing that you did to yourself. It's like, here's that back. Here's it's just like, dude, we don't understand the stakes. We don't understand. We're removed from the stakes of, like, it's just things about every idle word coming out of your mouth. You're going to have it make an accounting for when you stand before God. It's like, that makes total sense. It makes total sense that we would be here for 80 years and then go on to live forever. And that what we did in this intensive determines what status we're going to be at. It's a complete and total fair assessment. Who's It's going to be judged by the God of this world, who himself came down and experienced life himself. Like, this is super compelling stuff. Um, but the idea that this is just nothing, and then we're going to die and go on, and we're not going to even remember ourselves, or we're not going to be conscious anymore. Like, I don't think anyone can really fathom that. It makes more sense that that would not be the case. It makes more sense that we are alive, and that's just what it is. Um, and that there's major implications to our being alive, since we're incredibly complex and incredibly, what's going on here is um, it's a lot. So, just think of all the injustices, all these things that, even though we think that's, it's over and done with, and that person's going to have died, gotten away with X, Y, and Z, and the fact that that still doesn't sit well with us. I mean, isn't it more likely that eventually this whole thing is we're all gonna be like woken up, we're all gonna be dug up out of our graves and stand before God, and now that everything's been done, the final move's been made, he's like, is that your final answer? And we're like, yes. And he's like, okay, it's wrong. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I just know that hell is real, and unfortunately, like, the world is really not helping corroborate that information right now. But if you search your heart of hearts, your fear that you thought maybe was completely gone, and it was just some thing like the boogeyman under your bed, and now you're a grown person and you don't need to fear that anymore. But like, literally, as soon as anyone mentions it, it's right back to the fullest again. Like, what can do that? Um, and it sucks too, because the more that it's told to you, the more that you have to be accountable for that information. It's like, don't, why are you giving me? It's like a hot potato. I know it sucks, but again, that is God's urging. It's not bad. It's not bad. This isn't God trying to like just spark fear in you so that you could get some result. It's like, you have to address this thing. It's like getting that bill in the mail, getting that subpoena for those tickets. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you have to face it, and you have to ask God to do that. Now, if you want to know how exactly how you should talk to God, watch my previous video that I left earlier today. I cannot believe I've been talking this long. It's kind of been out of body. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing or saying. Like, I don't remember. There was no train of thought. It just was all coming out. And, uh, oh gosh. I'm going to post it though. But, holy crap. I hope it helps somebody. It's the best I got, y'all. It's the best I got. Somebody want to like succinct, like take it down, like cut it up, edit it, make it nice. I wouldn't hate you. But, yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for watching this whole thing. Good night.